Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roots to Grooves.
What's up, Seattle, Washington, and the greater world
The greater world, yeah, I guess.
area.
Greater world area.
Our
yeah.
part of the galaxy.
There you go.
The local supercluster of galaxies.
We were talking about science, I think, last week off camera.
We try to bring a little science, after and behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We're both kind of scientific-minded
Yeah.
gentlemen. We like to think so, at least. Amateur scientists.
Amateur scientists, yeah. I think, well, if you think about molecules and energy and vibrations and music, it's all kind of, there's some science in music, even though if it's not really explainable or tangible.
You can get as wacky as you want with what you're trying to create and use whatever instruments, but all these people are just making speakers vibrate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Making the air vibrate and then making our eardrums vibrate.
Yeah. Waveforms as well. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, it's all energy, baby.
Yeah. Craziness.
It's just all swirling around us at all times. So it brings us back. Gravity brought us back here today for another episode of Roots to Grooves. I think it might be May when this is out. So hello, May people in the future.
Hello, people in May. Yeah.
Hopefully it's nice.
I wonder what the world's looking like right now.
Yeah, hopefully.
For people that don't know, we're in the past because we record a bunch of these, ahead of time, right? Is that a bad thing to say, to give away the veil behind the curtain that we're not actually live right now?
No, I don't think so. That's okay. I think we're here to pull back the veil.
There you go. Yeah.
Of all these artists that we're talking about and see that these are all normal everyday people that are just making cool art.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the gist of what we're talking about. We're talking about real estate today.
Yeah, but not what type of real estate?
This is still Roots to Grooves. We're talking about a band.
A band called Real Estate.
Yeah, so interesting name.
From New Jersey, right? From New Jersey.
Ridgewood,
New Jersey.
or Wood Ridge. I think it's Ridgewood.
I think it's Ridgewood, yeah. I've never visited. Have you visited?
I've never been to the East Coast. I've been as far east as Texas.
I went to, New York for the first time in 2019. I was going to say last year, but it's been
already a little bit ago. You went to
a while.
Martha's Garden or Vineyard?
Yeah, Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, I went to Martha's Vineyard in Boston, saw Boston for like 2 seconds, and then got a train from there to New York. So the first time I saw New York was on the train at night, seeing the skyline come into view and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But didn't make it out to New Jersey. I've always heard New Jersey is kind of not such an exciting place to go visit.
Well, it's right next to New York City, so it's kind of got that big brother right next to it, living in the shadow. Yeah. Is how I imagine. I'm not from over there. I'm not from back east.
Sopranos is based there. I don't know.
Cool.
Okay. I think
that's still a show on my list.
Yeah.
I got to watch.
Yeah.
But enough jibber jabber. We're talking about real estate here.
Yeah.
Cool band. I mean, indie rock.
Yeah.
It's kind of poppy. It's kind of indie. A lot of kind of jangly guitars, but really nice, melodic arpeggiation.
Yeah.
With their guitars, 2 guitarists, a bass.
Yeah.
I think they have keys, and then they have a drummer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sort of dreamy, swishy music, I would call it. Like they have a lot of layers of guitars going on.
Yeah, which that's kind of why I fell in love with them when I found out about them, and that's why I'm still drawn to them.
So how did you first discover them?
I can't remember. I think honestly it came on a Spotify algorithm, new discovery playlist or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where it came from. Sometimes I just look around at similar artists on a research binge or whatever.
Was there a particular track or album, do you know of, that when you first came across them?
No, it was either the track we played called Darling off of their album In Mind in 2017. That was one of the big ones that caught my attention.
Yeah.
Because I think hopefully everyone will listen to that and you can kind of hear those intricate guitar melodies. They're simple, but the 2 guitars and the bass playing all together kind of lead to this nice intertwining jangle and melody.
Yeah.
Intertwined and stuff. So that's what I really like. I love guitars and the melodies you can create with them. And then along with his voice is a real chill. Like he has nice melodies, but they're not super crazy poppy. They're kind of smooth.
Yeah.
They're kind of
like subdued a little bit. They seem to be like back in the mix or something.
Yeah.
Sitting in the distance a little bit.
So I mean, all of their music is pretty chill. Their albums don't, you could see some growth and some different stuff they're trying as they're going through their discography, but
which I'll talk about later. Actually, some interesting insights into that sort of growth journey.
I want to know.
Albums. Yeah,
I want to know what you got in your head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it's super chill.
Yeah.
It's kind of nostalgic. It feels like you're kind of looking back.
To what? To when do you think? What kind of nostalgia?
Like
sound wise, like music.
Not music. Like in anybody's personal life. Like looking back at your high school days, for example.
Yeah.
And these guys started in high school.
Yeah.
Basically trying to make some music.
Someone mentioned something about, well, they have a track called Wonder Years, but someone said something, they phrased it in a strange way about, it's like looking through the lens of the Wonder Years, like with their music or something like that.
I think that's really apt. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And anybody can listen in any generation and kind of feel that same nostalgia, that same kind of longing for the past, that kind of melancholy feeling. So a lot of what they talk about in the lyrics, for example, is kind of, I mean, it feels kind of bedroomy, you know, it's kind of local feeling. It's kind of, I mean, they talk about like lyrically about their neighborhood, you know, about like the street lights, the symmetry of the houses down the road, like just kind of being a person, being a kid growing up and being in this feeling like your neighborhood is kind of the whole world.
That was like like I think their first album. So I guess I'll kind of mention it now. Like maybe we can talk a little bit more in depth as we go. A little tease. But like the first album came out in 2009 called Real Estate, and
self-titled.
And I think kind of like what they said about that, it was maybe like lyrically it was about like the high school years, growing up in the suburbs type thing. Yeah,
right. Very suburbs. That's a key word.
And then they mention the second album, Days, is kind of like the second phase of life after you've moved out of home and just like getting on your feet as a young adult sort of thing. And then Atlas, I'm not really, I guess it wasn't really like planned out, but in terms of like, well, maybe you can speak to that lyrically or whatever, the content of that album. But yeah, so they've sort of gone from like, you know, high school, childhood to young adult. And, you know, and now they're currently parents. That's sort of like one sort of theme, I think, through these albums. But the other theme, I think, because they talked a lot about how they've progressed musically and as songwriters and as musicians, and basically saying that every album is a progression of them getting better at all of those things. So like lyrically, there's like some, you know, interesting, like it's like every album, it's like a coming of age movie through 5 albums.
Totally.
Like that, you know?
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
The stuff they talk about is very just kind of human. Yeah. Almost mundane. Yeah. And some of the, you know, looking up reviews and stuff online, some would say to a fault. Some reviewers would be like, this, like, there's nothing going on. There's nothing exciting. There's not enough changes. The melodies are lame. But I think, I mean, that's not really what the point of what they're doing is. And what they do really well, what they do basically on every album in a slightly different way is create a super chill vibe to kick it to. Yeah.
That's what I thought. So I'd never heard of them before until you mentioned them.
Nice.
So I hadn't even heard one song. I listened to the entire first album all the way through, and then I listened to sort of bits of the other albums. I didn't recognize anything, so I definitely hadn't heard anything before.
They're making some waves though. They're in the music world. I've heard them at Safeway.
Really?
Yeah. So
interesting. Maybe I've subconsciously heard them then. But and I was like, you know, I can get what some of those reviewers are saying. Like, you know, on one hand, it could be very sort of samey type of music, but on the other hand, I feel like it sets a really specific mood. And you know,
I think so too.
When you want to go to that place, you know, you can put them on whichever album and sort of get to that place, sort of thing.
I think that's exactly what it's about. It's not. It's not challenging you as a listener. It's not. Ooh, can you keep up with these key changes or these, you know, different what do you call them when the beat changes?
Time signature.
Yeah, exactly. Time signature. Couldn't think of that off the top. But you know, they're not challenging the listener too much. They're just kind of providing this lovely, lush, reverby, jangly guitar, melodic guitar intertwining backdrop.
Yeah.
I think it works. So when I first discovered them, what I was doing a lot was painting.
Okay.
And so I was, up in my apartment just painting, and I would have them on, and I was kind of discovering them, and I didn't know who it was, but it was just super great to chill to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I didn't have to take my mind off of what I was doing to appreciate what they were doing, but it just kind of created that awesome backdrop for me to still allow my mind to think about what I want and to just kind of move forward like that.
That's cool. Yeah.
So I mean, that's why I keep going back to them. That's why I decided to make my choice for the week.
Yeah.
Because I think they do it really well, despite other people don't like that. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm into all types of music, and if anyone knows that watches Signl and watches The Drop,
that's got some good stuff on it.
Yeah. I'm always sort of drawn more, I would say funky stuff is more my wheelhouse, but I do, also we did a show on inspirations that would come out at some point where I played a lot of heavy metal.
Yeah, that one got wild.
But I also I would put like Real Estate kind of in the realm of like, I really like Postal Service. Like, it's like, it's kind of music. It's like, I don't listen to it all the time, but I know when I want to sort of have that sort of vibe kind of thing, I can go to like bands like that. And I think, Real Estate mentioned some influences. Was Weezer like an influence for them?
Yeah, I think early on when they were kind of first meeting each other. That's a nice little segue if we can talk about their history.
Let's do that.
So I think that is one of the bands. I think a band from Idaho, Built to Spill. Yeah. Which I keep coming up, and I saw them open up for the Shins in Idaho once.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I haven't really discovered them that much. The stuff I've heard is not hitting me.
I haven't heard of them at all, so
they've come up a couple times anyway, but more the reason to check them out because they do keep coming up. A band called Pavement.
I think, I've heard of Pavement,
and I've not.
Yeah, I think so.
They mentioned the Pixies at some point.
Another Pixies fan.
They keep coming up in our episodes as well.
Who else mentioned them? Definitely Tori and Moore mentioned them. Who else was it? Ariel? No, I can't remember who else that we covered that mentioned the Pixies as an influence.
You tell us. Hit us up on that email because we don't even know what we're talking about. Exactly, we've done a lot of episodes now.
Yeah, exactly.
Another band called the Feelies, which I saw come up in a couple different reviews, which I've never heard of, but they sound like a cool band.
I haven't. I meant to look them up prior to the show. I didn't do that. We could look them up on the show, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe on a break.
Maybe on a break.
We don't have all day.
Not all day. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess they basically started in high school.
Yeah.
I think we didn't mention the members of the band.
So currently there's a 5-piece, right? And they've gone through a lot of different lineup changes over the years. Except for like the two, was it 2-3 guys that were there from the beginning?
The two that I have, Martin Courtney. Yeah. He's what I found is the main songwriter basically. Yeah. He's bringing the meat and potatoes to the band, and then they flushed it out. Yeah. And then Alex Bleeker on bass. Yeah. And I think they were friends in high school. Yeah. And I think they met on the bus. Yeah. I think one of them was in high school choir. Yeah,
so I think they said, I saw an interview with both of them from 5 years ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. They said they kind of knew each other when they were 10 years old.
Oh, even that far back?
Yeah, but they didn't become friends until they were like 13, 14.
Cool.
Bonding over music. Yeah, I think like they were on a bus and...
one of them was like listening to Weezer or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, you want to listen?
The Impossible, I think.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and on his Walkman, and he was like, had a listen and...
didn't even have an iPod.
Exactly, yeah. This must have been in when? The 80s? I don't know.
Yeah, they're...
How old are they, by the way? Do we know?
I don't know. Martin Courtney has like 3 kids now, so I think he's probably in his 30s.
Yeah. Wow. I don't have any kids and I'm in my 30s.
Still got time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think guys aren't as big of a rush. I think we could could still create for many years.
There you go. Well, yeah. There are lots of old actors that have very young children. So
yeah.
There you go. Where were we? Sorry.
Well, basically these guys meet each other, and even some other members who ended up being in the band later. Yeah. Were still kind of in this group all kind of meeting each other, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So whoever was in the band, I think it was Martin Courtney and Alex Bleeker at this point, and maybe a couple other guys playing the instruments, whatever.
Yeah.
And their first show was a show they set up in their parents' yard.
Yeah.
As far as I saw, you saw that too. That's true.
Yeah, I think so. In Martin's backyard or something like that, I think.
Yeah. And they just they invited other local bands from the high school and built a bill.
Yeah.
And threw a show in the backyard.
Yeah, and then sort of before then, I did see Martin was talking about he used to play double bass, I think, in elementary school.
Okay.
And he was like in the orchestra or something like that. And
that's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then they had like a talent show at his elementary school, and he decided to form a band with his. I don't know how old he was at this stage. Yeah,
like 11,
something like that. Yeah, and then they formed a band. He said like the other shows were like the other people performing were like dancers and lip syncers and stuff like that. And they said that, we had our instruments and we were like, felt very sort of like professional and like we had something to do kind of thing. And then they played Sweet Home Alabama as a cover song. Blue Suede Shoes by Elvis Presley.
Yep.
There was another third one. I'm not sure.
I think it was Rock and Roll All Night. I think Kiss.
By Kiss, yeah.
Or The Kiss.
Not The Kiss.
Oh, maybe new
Kiss.
band name for somebody out there.
The Kiss, yeah. Yeah, so, in elementary school, 11 years old, which reminded me of my first show when I was 11 years old. Similar experience. I formed a band with like a couple of my friends that were at school. I knew one friend at least that had like played keyboard kind of thing.
Yeah.
He just did all this stuff, and so I played drums. We used to like get together at, in my friend's garage, and then we formed this band with like no one could play any instruments apart from really me and my friend on keyboard kind of thing.
What were you guys called?
Well, because I had a secondhand drum kit, and the make of that drum kit was called Axe. And it had Axe already written on the drum skin. So I was like, we're called Axe. And it was weird. And we got the show. It was like at the school. It was like a school fete they have in England kind of thing.
Okay.
In the summertime out in the field. And we played on the back of like a pickup truck sort of thing. But like...
That's great.
I had like two friends just like bailed at the last minute kind of thing, and so it was just me on drums and the keyboardist kind of thing. But it reminded me because like they like when he was talking about was it Martin talking about doing this band, he said like none of them wanted to sing. Like they didn't like there were kids and that no one really wanted to be out front. I think they found one with his friends that decided he was going to do it kind of thing. But
I mean, fair enough. That's kind of a big step for a band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially as kids.
Yeah.
A lot of people are shy.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily have the training or
which I don't know what you're doing really. Like, yeah.
I mean, you literally just don't know what you're doing, so it's not hard to get started sometimes. I think anybody in a band has kind of been there. Singing and coming up with lyrics is some of the more difficult, time intensive or energy intensive stuff.
Yeah, I think you either that's really been hard. Like, especially for me, like I played drums as the main thing. Play a little bit of guitar and keys and whatever. Not as good as I can play drums, sort of thing. But one thing I've never done is sing, and just I sort of admire anyone that obviously can sing, come up with a melody, write lyrics. Lyrics is like real hard. Like,
although I think writing lyrics is kind of fun. It's like a puzzle.
I just when I think about it, I'm just like writing bad poetry or something like that. I don't know. But
that's how it all starts, I think.
Bad poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first step to writing good lyrics.
Own that bad poetry. So, I mean, these guys are, they're starting to show, like, they know what they want to do.
Yeah.
Kind of what's next? I mean, they all kind of went through high school and they were still kind of playing music, kind of formulating themselves as people, as musicians, harnessing, gaining their skills, acquiring their skills.
I thought what was really interesting about this whole thing, like, because they all sort of knew each other from school and from childhood, and then also like they knew other people that went on into like other bands that like blew up from that area kind of thing.
Yeah, they weren't a circle of musicians surrounding him.
And it was interesting, like Martin was saying, like he wasn't into sports or anything like that, so he didn't play any of those things, but it was like music was the draw kind of thing. And Alex talked about that as well, saying, they used to just hang out and they used to listen to music and talk about music. And so then the extension of like creating music just felt like a natural thing. It's like, and that was a whole friend group. It was all about music, listening to it, creating it. And so many, like even some of the band members that are in the band now were not in the band originally, but they still knew them from high school. I think even the guy that does their lighting or something like that on their crews, like used to go to high school with them as well and stuff like that. So it's like, so it's really cool, like way of kind of like, I don't know.
I've seen that in other places. Like, I think it would Flea from Chili Peppers, like lived in the same neighborhood as Slash or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, just you see these weird connections with different kind of groups of
and they all became famous and separately and differently, and they sort of knew each other or something.
Yeah, it kind of goes to show what the power of networking is and helping others create and that give and take.
Yeah.
And I don't know, from all this research, like it seems like that's a way towards success. A lot of great people don't do these things by themselves. Like, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, a lot of these people who are known for doing great things have a right-hand man or a network of people helping them. Yeah. It's pretty rare to see somebody just kind of be an isolated person and kind of, shoot into the mainstream world. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And so these guys did it all together. And should we talk about, or do you want to talk more about their history, or should we talk into their albums? Or?
No, we can talk into their albums. Just skip ahead a little bit. They went to high school. Then I think most of them went to college, at various colleges. I think one went to California.
Well, one of the guys went to Olympia here in Washington.
Oh, that's
State.
right. Yeah, I went to Evergreen.
Yeah,
which is it's like a hippie college, right? So like it's got that. It's known for that.
Yeah, is that the one that's out east? Is it? Evergreen?
I thought it was over here or maybe more west, but I'm not sure where it is. Sure.
Yeah, it's like in a small town somewhere.
I think it is, like but that's all I know is like it's known for being like a hippie school.
Oh, interesting.
That's what I have to say about it. That's all I know. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did a similar thing here. These guys from real estate is what kind of happened to wall paint that we talked about in a different episode, right? But this is sort of different because they were in high school and then going to study. So they all separated into different states, studying at college and stuff like that. Did they all finish college? Did they all graduate and stuff?
I don't know. I think they all did.
Yeah.
As far as I know, but I didn't see anything come up about specific degrees or what they left with.
But they definitely just stayed in contact and were still writing music together. Right?
Yeah, just kind of separately, postal service style.
Did I just burp on the mic?
No, we'll cut that out anyway. But I mean, I think they were still sending ideas to each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had this group called Lesse Majesty.
Lesse.
I don't know how to say it. Lesse.
How do you spell it?
Lese. Lays.
I don't know.
Is that French? I don't know.
Laissez.
Yeah, Laissez Majesté.
Is it Majesty? Is the second thing?
I think it's just Majesty, but unless you have a French accent, you got to switch it up a little.
I know.
I think that should be it.
Well, isn't the original drummer French? He has a very French name.
Oh, he's Dubois.
Etienne Pierre Dubois.
I think that's right.
That's a very French name.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I don't know about that though. Yeah. But anyway, I think they kind of formed this band, Bleecker and Mondanile and Courtney. They started this band that was meant to be a touring band for their friend Julian Lynch, who had his own project.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where they got their start, working together as a band.
Got it. Yeah.
So, and then that's kind of the history as far as I know. And then we can jump to that first album.
Yeah. And did they happen to think? There was this EP, I think, at Atlantic City Expressway. Was that their first release?
Okay, I didn't see that or listen to that.
Came across it. It's not on Spotify because that's the only streaming, but I don't look anywhere else.
Yeah, that's if they don't have it, then we don't have it.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that was that. I didn't look into what tracks are on there, but there, yeah. If it did come out, it came out in 2009, which is the same year as their first album, self-titled Real Estate. I would call that album. It's kind of like the rest of their music, but I wrote down an atmospheric, laid-back, distant vocals, garage type of sound. Like
a little rougher than kind of what they're known for in the future.
Yeah, it felt more. Well, it's definitely atmospheric because of the way it was recorded. It kind of sounds like it was in a.
Was it kind of lo-fi?
Yeah, lo-fi, like in a. I mean, it's polished sounding. It's mixed, but the sound of like the drums and everything sounds very garage, like a rehearsal room. Like
it's really live.
Yeah, really live. And sort of kind of a little bit jammy, I think. Like they've got this one really super long track, I think, that's like towards the end of the album. That's like 7 minutes long or something like that. And sort of goes in a few different directions a little bit. I really like this album. Yeah, I listened to it all the way through.
Nice. Interesting. That's one that I did not come across. So
yeah.
I mean, people listening, go check that out. I'm going to check it out on my ride home, I guess.
Yeah.
If it's on YouTube, or where'd you find it?
Oh, and I'm talking about Real Estate, the first album.
Oh, that first self-titled Real Estate.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I did listen to that one.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't explain myself correctly.
Oh, no.
Starting out there, but yeah. So
that one is good though. Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly how you described it.
Yeah,
totally. I think they were kind of finding their sound. Yeah. At that point, were they signed to a label?
No. Well, I'm not sure. It came out somehow, but I think 2011 was, or 14 maybe, is when they signed to Domino. Was that?
Yeah, I think
Domino Recording Company.
And that was a little later.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of much later.
Yeah, like the third album or something like that, I think.
But yeah, I mean, Real Estate 2009, I put some words down like, it's shimmering, it's kind of subdued. Yeah. I mean, I think of like light reflecting off a body of water.
Yeah.
But like you said, kind of live sounding.
Yeah.
But it's fluid, it's consistent. It's got the makings for what they kind of started to build in their later albums.
Yeah.
Which I would say they kind of built up into their, I don't know if you'd call it the masterpiece like Atlas or In Mind in 2014, 2017, like their latest.
Yeah, I really like Atlas. And I think I saw some stuff about that album as they didn't want to record it in their hometown. So they went to Chicago and rented a house and lived together. And then they had a studio out in Chicago where they recorded it all. Basically saying they didn't want to, if they recorded it in New York, then they would after the studio, maybe get distracted, friends inviting them out and stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas this, I think, was a way for them to focus just on recording and writing.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. And
real quick, I don't want to skip over Days in 2011.
Yeah.
Their album Days, October 2011, and that's a little more of the same. Like these guys are pretty in their niche of what they're doing with their, chill guitar music.
Yeah.
But this one's a little cleaner, a little sharper, a little stronger.
Yeah, and their drummer that they originally had, the French guy, with a crazy long name, like he left around that time,
right?
Just before they recorded the album. So he's like on one track, and then they have like 4 or 5 other drummers that played on different tracks.
Yeah, they were kind of figuring out what was going on with the situation.
But it didn't affect the sound, I don't think. It all sounds like a consistent album all the way through. You can't tell there's different musicians or whatever on that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
and I think that's also like maybe the way they write their music, because I think they have like a few different ways of writing. I don't know if you saw. Basically 3 ways, I think. Like one is just jamming together in a room and coming up with something. Another way is like Martin will have a guitar, like a structured bunch of guitar riffs that's kind of a song but without the vocals yet, and they'll go and rehearse that. And then I think the third way is he'll actually fully do a demo by himself of like an entire song with scratch drum track and stuff like that. So I think maybe that's like how they were able to do Days in that way with these different drummers, is they already kind of went in with like a pre-structure of the songs kind of already written, and just like a lot of bands do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think they hit the mark. It's a solid album.
I
And
like it.
they began getting notoriety
Yeah.
and acclaim
Yeah.
across the nation.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I listened to these guys. I've heard them at Safeway. So if that's not a sign of success, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So yeah, Days 2011, good album. It's solid. It's atmospheric. It's cool. In 2014, Atlas came out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the albums that I found kind of when I first discovered this band, Real Estate. And this has some classic stuff on it. And yeah, like you said, they were living in Chicago because they didn't want to record in New York.
Yeah.
But this one's a little more collaborative. They captured a lot of good live energy. It took shape a little more naturally. I think most of the songs they recorded live. Once they had the structure down and they figured out what parts everyone wanted to play, they worked them out, and then they basically got the gist of the record recorded live.
In 10 days, I think, is what they said. Yeah.
I think the producer they were working with said he's like, I work fast.
Yeah. Yeah, because they said they didn't really know, they didn't think they were going to do it live when they went into it. They just knew they wanted to do it quickly, was what they said.
Not think about it too much, not overthink.
Yeah, and and just really kind of capture that energy. I think is what they said of how they play live. They wanted to try and capture that same energy in a record rather than kind of recording things separately and layering things and
totally
overdubbing, like just trying to capture the nucleus of the energy, which is really hard, to do. And I think that's a really important thing to try and capture, especially if you're a band. I mean, they're a traditional band in the sense of things, and their music does not sound anything other than a live band.
Right, yeah. And I think they really made a point to try to develop that. And yeah, it's interesting because that feeling is like in your body and it doesn't really exist before you create this album. Yeah. And so how do you translate that? Yeah. And all these guys, I think they were saying they're really kind of opinionated. All the people in the bands have these ideas about what they want to sound like. Well, what if we did this drum beat? What if we did a bass like this? Yeah. And they, they work it out so they could all have parts that they like to play and incorporate what they think should happen in the music. Yeah. And I think they brought it, and they did a really good job.
And this was also the first time they integrated keyboards into their sound, which if you hear the album is very still, even subdued, I think. There's nothing too in your face keyboards wise. I heard some like Rhodes, I think, in there and a few tracks.
Right. I think they blend it really nicely underneath the guitars. Yeah. And the guitars are doing most of the melody. Yeah. But they got the keyboards just doing some real, not in your face background, providing texture and atmosphere.
Yeah. And I think it seems to be something that they already pre-figured out that they wanted before they went to the studio, because they said they realized that none of them could pull off the playing that they wanted to achieve, which is why they recruited Matt Coleman or Kalman. I'm not sure how you say it. Kalman. Well, I would never have guessed that.
I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but that's fine. We'll go with that.
Yeah, so he joined the band at that point to provide the keys for that album, and has been with them since. But,
which is great. The album's, it's chill, it's relaxed. They're defining who they are as a band, I think. A lot, and they're really hitting the mark and hitting their stride with Atlas.
Yeah, I really like this album actually.
Yeah, it's got a pleasant atmosphere. Yeah, they're solid, pretty melodies that blend with the guitar and not in your face. Real kind of soft, mix wise. Kind of deep in the mix, not super poppy up front and bright. Yeah. So it's kind of subtle. I'm getting these vibes of nostalgia. Yeah. It's simple. It's rich. A little sad.
Should we play a song from that?
Sad in a good way. Get those nostalgic kind of vibes. But do you have one loaded up? We put a couple in that list.
I added 4.
Give me one. You got it.
Ooh, well, I'll add the one that you added actually, because you had a good selection for the first track that we played.
Yeah, I think it's the first one off of Atlas.
Had to hear. Had to hear. Okay. Here we go.
Let's pump it up.
Had to Hear It. That was called Had to Hear by Real Estate.
Forced into it. So, I mean, you can hear them. They settle into this beautiful little pocket.
Yeah.
And they don't give you a mad solo or take the song in a weird direction or give you a weird key change. You know, they find this beautiful little pocket.
Well, there was like soloing at the end there, but it wasn't intense. It was like part of the flow, right?
Right. Yeah, they just keep that kind of flowy, lighthearted, chill vibe. And that's what I think they do really well. And I think that's what they're about.
Yeah.
And that's why I love them. That's why I brought them to the table.
Yeah.
So it's great. Simple melodies.
Yeah.
With the guitar.
Yeah.
With the, you know, it's simple stuff, but all coming together with the cool bass lines, like a windshield wiper across your windshield, and then, you know, some pretty guitars.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I just like it. Isn't that you can't say that's not a smooth, pretty sound.
Yeah. And it is sort of, I don't know. I was getting sort of, not really Beatles vibe, maybe a little bit. I don't know. Do you feel that a little bit? Like,
yeah, totally.
That sort of 60s sort of, you could see like a black and white video of them in suits playing that song maybe or something.
Yeah, and that's what's cool. They kind of evoke this sense of nostalgia or looking back at good times.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I like it. It's cool. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But I hope other people feel like that too.
Yeah, I think like one thing they've said is they've been working on each album, like I say, like progressing. They use each album as a chance to sort of, you know, sort of evolve, I think, in their own way kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And sort of saying, like, train of thought, man, this is like the third time this has happened in this season of shows. I was going to say something very important and about
well, you got the mic in front, you got the camera on, there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
At least there's not a party next door.
That happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think we might have to redo those episodes. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So I guess the one other thing after this album is that has to be talked about is the guitarist Mandanine. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say his name? Would you agree?
I'll go with your suggestion. Yeah, I can't.
See if I can see his name somewhere else. Mandanine is what I have written in my notes. So at this point, he was kicked out of the band.
One denial, yeah, something like that. I guess a little bit of controversy around that. It seems like a little bit.
I think it was controversy, but I guess it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
In the end.
Was he the guy that was treating women inappropriately?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah. Okay. So at first I think it was like they went through Pitchfork with a review or something to get the message out. However it happened, I don't know, but they reviewed it, and what the band said. So I mean, let me back up. Mandanine had another band who he was working on called DuckTales.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, their statement was, "Oh, he's going to concentrate on DuckTales.
Yeah.
Everything's good. We're getting a new guitarist. No problem."
What they initially said, right?
Yeah. But for whatever reason, then it came out, and they.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was reading, but yeah, they came out and said the specific reason was that he was mistreating women. Yeah. And basically he was a sexual predator.
Which I didn't hear that part of it. Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, if you're...
Well, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it was that to that extent, like,
well, because
not just verbally or psychological stuff, like, you know, physical stuff.
Oh, well,
so
yeah, I don't know the details at all, but I know that I think he initially said it was all like bullshit in a certain sense, and then he ended up like apologizing through his lawyer or something like that, and then he said something about like he signed a leaving agreement that said that the agreement was neither side would say anything bad about the other party to like not affect their career or something like that, and he felt that they did say something bad towards him through that. I mean, if you're doing crazy shit like that, then I mean, someone needs to say some bad shit about it.
You got it coming. Like, what do you expect?
Exactly. I mean, you know, make your own. What was it? Dig your own. I don't know what the saying is.
Something like dig your own hole. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So the band had the higher ground, the higher moral ground, and I don't know. He doesn't really have a play.
No.
He was mistreating women, and that's just gross. So they kicked him out.
Yeah, I think that's happened. Oh, there was this band out of the UK that I heard about recently. Oh, it wasn't the UK. It was what's that band from Las Vegas? The Killers.
Killers?
Did you hear about some stuff that happened with them?
No.
Yeah, I think there was some weird shit that happened on their tours. It didn't involve the band members, but it involved like crew members and like prostitutes and stuff like that. and it was like
It is Vegas.
yeah, well,
A bunch of guys from Vegas.
they're from Vegas, but they're actually bigger in the UK and Europe than they are in America, and I think they tour all over the world and stuff. But yeah, it was like big news in the UK for a little bit, like recently, like in the last year, I think.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I like the Killers.
Yeah, some shit went down with them.
Because their song, I mean, Mr. Brightside, is it? It's just absolutely huge over there.
Was that their first ever single?
I think that's the first one.
They were like massive in the. I was in the UK when that came out, and they were everywhere.
Yeah,
they were, like mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know why that particular song popped off over there, and they just absolutely love it.
Yeah, but I don't think they had that.
Good for them.
That happens sometimes actually with like American bands that don't. They sort of like make it to Europe or the UK and get really big, and then like no one knows who they are in America.
Yeah.
But then they have that sort of like what's that word? Sort of seductive nature to them. Like if you're in the UK and it's like, here's this band from Las Vegas. Well, that sounds interesting, and they're called the Killers, and there's a whole like mystique around them. So they're like bigger in Europe. And then on the flip side, you have a band like Bush who are all British and moved over to America and became famous in America before anyone knew who they were in England.
Are they big over there now? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they disbanded a while ago, but Gavin Rossdale, right?
He's a singer.
He's the singer. Yeah, was married to Gwen Stefani.
Okay.
I
don't know. I mean,
yeah,
the
but
Bush.
the Bush, they were all English, I think, and they literally relocated the entire band to like LA.
Okay.
Got their record deals.
I'm not sure if I knew they were from the UK or from over there at all.
Yeah.
I did see them once, and it was pretty cool because they had they had songs on the radio and everything over here. Like you said, they were popular.
Yeah, I liked one of their albums. Can't remember the name of it. It had like a pit bull or French bulldog on the front cover or something like that.
I don't even know what any of their albums look like, but I saw them open up for Incubus.
Oh wow!
At a show, or it was like a co-headlining kind of festival.
When was this?
Type thing?
A long time ago.
Yeah, like 2010, 11, somewhere back there. Mm-hmm. And they put on a good show. It was awesome.
Nice.
Incubus was great as well.
Incubus.
Yeah.
They like the skater rock-ish.
Yeah.
Bit funky, bit hip-hoppy.
They were super funky, almost metal, funk,
metal funk.
neo-metal, new metal, whatever you would want to call it.
Yeah.
I think maybe those names, new. I got to go do some vocabulary words, dude. I'm not sure. I think we looked up neo once and it was like, it meant new. But then there's the word N-U.
New, yeah. So, new metal, new.
Anyway.
We digress again.
Yeah, so this guitarist was kicked out, and it's messed up because, I mean, obviously we listened to this, this song from Atlas we just listened to, and he's doing
on that.
Yeah, and he's doing great stuff, and I liked his playing. It was really nice.
Yeah.
And he was really good.
Yeah.
And he also had this other band who I didn't check out, DuckTales, but maybe don't check him out, anybody. Don't support this guy.
I mean, I don't know the details. It seems like you know more.
Well, I mean,
what happened, but
I went on a little tangent and looked up him specifically and brought up some more details. Yeah,
great.
Because on like their Wikipedia, for example, it didn't go into the details. So I went a little hunting, and it was worse than they were making it out to be.
Really, some bad stories.
Yeah. So there it is. He's out though, so it's all good.
Yeah.
They moved on.
Was it Julian Lynch that replaced him, or was he?
Let me pull it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was no, you're right, Julian Lynch. So that was the guy who they were originally kind of his backing band.
So they were his backing band. They became their own band. Julian Lynch had a solo career, still has a solo career, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
They sort of brought him in to replace him, and I think they said about that is like, like musically, it is a change. And it's going to be different musically. But they said it was for a good thing, a good way. And they also said, we've known him since high school as well. So it's not like someone completely fresh coming in. Yeah,
so another person from their hometown, essentially. They were already in their circle. They'd known him for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, anybody would agree that's a huge value.
Yeah.
Rather than bringing in who's this guy? Nobody knows anything about him.
Yeah.
That, that could go multitude of ways.
It's kind of like the Chili Pepper story again, right? When John Frusciante left him,
and then Josh
Cliff.
Cliffhanger. Cliff Hoffer.
Is it Hofflinger? I don't know. Shit.
It's something in there though. We said all those syllables.
Doesn't matter. He's not in there anymore.
He's out too.
But yeah, he wasn't a complete stranger because I think he actually played on tour, like in the background or something like that.
Yeah, he was an extra guitarist.
Yeah, and knew them, was hanging around them. So
yeah,
it's always better, I think, if you can. I mean, you could go either way, really. Like you could find someone new that's just. And that's something interesting to the mix. But,
that's certainly happened in the music world. Yeah. But a lot of the times, like we've talked about on the show before, it's about relationships and networks and growth.
Well, because it's not just about music. Like, music obviously is a very important thing. You need that kind of musical rapport with the other musicians. But at the same time, this is someone that's going to be on tour with you. Who's going to be...
They're hanging out with them.
They basically become part of the family. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
So that's huge.
Dynamics at play for that.
Keeps it interesting always.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pumped, though, because then they came out with that next album, In Mind.
Yeah.
And then this is another one of my...
favorites.
One of my favorites, for sure. And this one I have like the least notes on because I'm just talking off the top of my head, I guess. But that was 2017.
Yeah.
And this is...
I wrote down it's my least favorite.
You wrote that down? That's your least favorite?
Well, to be fair, though, I didn't listen to it all the way through. I just listened to a few tracks.
Maybe you listened to the wrong ones.
Maybe. And I was like, I felt like it felt a little bit gritty or harsh in the sound of it, like the way the drums sound and that compared to their other stuff. It didn't sound as soft as some of their other stuff.
Yeah, it was a little more crystallized.
More crystallized, crispy.
Yeah, it was a little more,
Which is, but then we opened the show with that song Darling, which I liked, having heard that. So I probably need to give that another go. But
for example, there was one dud that I maybe would say they shouldn't have put on the album, and I'm not trying to be a hater, but I think it was it was written by Bleeker.
Okay.
Alex Bleeker, and it was kind of like his song, and I don't think it's really the same vibe.
Oh, really?
So, I think it was called Diamond Eyes, and it's just not really the same vibe that I'm getting.
Oh.
That I like from...
I actually liked the way that started out, I think. Let's just, for shits and giggles, let's just play the little bit of the beginning of that, because I liked how it started out, but then...
Okay. Differing opinions, I like it.
It's kind of funky.
Kind of country?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
It's a time to be humble. It's a time
to be then the second line, I'm like, not really sure what's going on there.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just, it doesn't fit the vibe for me, just personally.
Yeah.
You all go out and listen to that awesome song and let us know what you think, because I would love to hear other opinions on it, for real.
Yeah.
But for me, it's kind of like, why? Because the rest of the album I think is pretty solid, and it's one of the ones that I had when I was painting. Yeah. And again, this album, In Mind and Atlas, both of those albums are like, just, I was listening to it in the summertime, and it's just chill, just middle of the day, a nice afternoon album while you're kicking it.
Glass of red wine.
Yeah, you're just watching the neighborhood, or in your backyard at the pool, or looking off your balcony, or just chilling in your apartment, whatever.
That's a very romantic vision of...
Yeah, it is. That's a good word.
You meant summertime?
Yeah, we hadn't used that word today to describe this artist, but romantic. I could say it's kind of romantically nostalgic.
Yeah.
Particularly these two albums. Yeah. And this is why we throw it in. If you guys are going to start with... Anybody wants to listen to this band, Real Estate, I would start with Atlas and then go to In Mind. Start with either one of those, but I would start with Atlas and then In Mind. Yeah. And you will be pleased. If you like that, then I would go to the beginning of their discography and go from there.
Yeah, I guess like the three last albums, probably. But yeah, having listened to the first album all the way through is probably like it's looser. It's like less structured, I feel like, maybe like rawer.
Yeah, I think they're growing. They're trying a little bit new things. You can feel the
Yeah.
energy of them trying to explore a different little niche within their niche because they don't go too far
Yeah.
away from what they do well. And I think that's cool. I think a long time ago, I was like, this band, there's all kinds of stuff. They changed their style. I might have been talking about Incubus actually, and like, oh, they do this. They use acoustic guitars. They're kind of metal. They're kind of funky.
Yeah.
They're doing all kinds of stuff. And then I think it was my uncle Tony, and he brought the point. He was like, actually, I think it's really cool when a band can do the same thing over and over, and do it successfully, and still maintain that and have that attraction about them. And
I think you mentioned this on a previous
maybe I said it
episode,
before.
It's coming back to me now.
I'm
a
getting
little bit.
too old just repeating my thoughts
Uncle
over and
Tony. No, I don't remember.
over. Uncle Tone.
I remember. I remember the sentiment though about doing the same thing over and over. You might have not. You might have said it off mic, maybe not on the show.
Sure, but nevertheless, it's an interesting thing to me, that dynamic between a band trying to do the same similar thing over and over. But you know, AC/DC or the Foo Fighters. You know, Foo Fighters is a good band that does that. They kind of hit that mark. They know what they're doing. They're rock.
Actually, I need to listen to their most recent album because I read some things about it saying that they added a little bit more funkiness to it and grooviness to it, and to the chagrin of their drummer, even loops.
Chagrin?
Chagrin. I use that word.
That's the word of the podcast, man. That's the word of the day.
Someone bet me to use chagrin in a sentence. And I just did it. I used it 3 times.
Wait, what is that though? Actually, is that a real word?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna make me look it up now.
No, I mean, I'm interested in
if I can spell it.
chagrin.
Because see, I have like these words in my vocabulary, and I'll just throw them out there. And then when someone says ask for a meaning, it's like, I can't really. I have to look it up. Like I use it in a certain way, but I can't.
You know the
explain-
context.
I know the context.
I think that's very fair, and most people would use a lot of words that they wouldn't be able to define right off the top of their head either. So it's completely normal.
So chagrin, spelled CHAGRIN, is meant to describe distress or embarrassment at having failed or been humiliated. Maybe that's a strong way of saying it, but chagrin of what's his name, the drummer of Foo Fighters? Can't remember. But
You can't say.
anyway, we digress a little bit. But
He's dope.
Basically, the latest Foo Fighters album, I need to listen to it because it sounds like they did a little bit more of experimentation with something a little bit more groovy and funky.
Interesting.
But they said it was still very much in the Foo Fighters wheelhouse, still very much with the Dave Grohl melodies. And
I bet it's good then, because I mean they're an example of what I'm talking about, kind of consistent, not going crazy, different album, trying exploring new things.
Yeah.
They're kind of hitting their mark.
Yeah.
Over and over again, and they do it really well in a slightly different way. They do, explore to an extent, but stay within that niche.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to listen to that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Definitely, we'll spin it. But the thing is, like, I think I'm not sure which album it was on Real Estate, but they also said at some point that they are trying to create a unique sound, in a way where they want it to be their own sound. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you hear it, you'll be like, "That's Real Estate," kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I think they sort of mentioned. I think they might have mentioned that as far back as when they were doing Atlas in 2014.
Right.
It's that kind of, just trying to be unique, and they also said they don't want to repeat themselves. Actually, so from everything you were saying, it's like I feel like there are some bands out there that do a lot of drastic things from album to album. I think Warpaint even was like an example of that, like from their last album they put out versus the one they put out just before that. I felt like was different, not the same vibe kind of thing, maybe too different. I mean, the classic example of it is OK Computer, right? Not AK Computer, Kid A with Radiohead.
A kind of stark departure into a new territory.
Yeah, that was just like completely 360, degree turn.
Yeah,
or
first
whatever.
3 songs don't even have guitars.
Yeah, and it's all like blips and bloops.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't like it, but yeah, I like it.
But it stood the test of time, and now it's basically regarded classic today, yeah?
Yeah. So, I mean, Real Estate are not doing that. They're just getting.
They're not doing that.
They're not doing that. They're just getting more focused sounding, maybe, or something like that. Like,
their whole career, their discography is honing in this sound that they developed really well. I think they did a good job, and I think they hit the mark. They did find their own sound, their own pocket, of music. Yeah. If you put them on most of the time, 90% of the time, I would be able to say like, yeah, that's Real Estate.
Yeah.
It's that unique sounding to me.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people would say it's not starkly different from other stuff.
Yeah.
So it context is everything. Mm-hmm. People are going to say it's not super experimental. Mm-hmm. That's not the point. Mm. That's not what they're going for. That's not who they're making music for. I'm sure these guys are very capable of doing something else.
Yeah.
But they're choosing to use guitars as a main, source of melody. Yeah. Kind of simple beats, but I say simple, but it's not necessarily easy to explain. For example, that song "Darling" that we played off the first track of "In Mind." Mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but the beat does kind of change, and I don't know if it's some kind of syncopation or time signature change, but there is some oddities in there, which makes that song super cool because it mostly sounds straightforward. Yeah, but you're like,
it is some like like double time thing or something like that.
Yeah,
and it goes.
So they're playing with music and stuff, and it's super cool. They got some tricks up their sleeve, even though they're presenting it in a really kind of chill way. Yeah. And that's what I think they do really well, and that's why I would say, I would recommend them and listen to them if you're trying to chill.
Yeah, solid group.
Yeah. So boom, 2020.
Yeah.
And they released The Main Thing.
The Main Thing.
Which is the name of the album, The Main Thing.
Which they talked about. There was a song on there called The Main Thing, and it was one of the last songs that they recorded for the album. And they were saying, I think on this album, just in general, that they've collaborated a little bit more together as a group, like lyrically, I think, and stuff like that, and maybe like on a few other things, like they're sort of sharing more ideas and implementing more of each other's ideas and what they're doing, kind of thing, throughout the whole album. And I think they said for that song, the main song, The Main Thing, they recorded it live, and for that song at least, I'm not sure what they did for the rest of the album, but I think Martin was saying that he wanted to kind of capture a feeling, like when you're in a band and you're playing a song for the first time, or you just discover something, like you just discover that thing,
that,
and you
like that moment where everyone, you don't have to say anything, but everyone feels it.
Yeah, like someone plays a riff or whatever, and someone does something else, and you're like, oh yeah, that's it, kind of thing. Like that's what they were trying to capture in that song, like musically, I think. And he said like he hadn't sung the lyrics in front of anyone until they recorded it, and so they did it, and then they were like saying, like the rest of the band members were like, well, I don't know about these lyrics. It sounds a bit weird. It sounds like you want to like kill someone, or like
it sounded a little odd. It didn't sound like it quite
like
fit in.
A stalker or something like that.
Because they're in a recording studio and he's in the booth recording, and they're listening to it live, stuff they've never heard before. The lyrics they haven't heard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to paint the picture of where they're at and what's going on.
Yeah. And so they're all like there, and they eventually. So they go away and think about it for a few days, and it's just like a couple of word changes or whatever that sort of made it different to get the sentiment across. And I think the sentiment was something to do. Well, they said the whole thing really with this album is that they're proper adults now. They have children and families and stuff like that. And I think Martin really talked about just consuming the news that was happening around, with politics in America and everything like that. And I think the sentiment they kind of wanted to get across with that song and the album was that, when the world's kind of falling down around you, you have to try and do something different kind of thing, and really soothe your own soul so you can be a better person to like, I think that was kind of the sentiment that they said they were trying to put forth with this album and in that song in particular kind of thing. But yeah, which I thought was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. Yeah. And they do also stay kind of consistent lyrically with the content of what they're talking about, kind of staying true to just like, I'm a person, how do I feel? What are my emotions? And what are my immediate surroundings? And how do I interact with that? And how does it interact with me? And what does this mean? You know, kind of, I don't want to say pedestrian. That sounds too mundane. Yeah. Because pedestrian stuff is human. Yeah. Kind of normal, mundane stuff.
Every day.
He's talking about every day. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. Like just everyday feelings and interacting with your world around you. And while that sounds kind of simple and like we all do that, it's cool it's still very introspective and there's not a lot of answers. Yeah. And every day people are out there thinking, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing here? And why? And so there's big questions in these kind of pedestrian feelings. You feel where I'm coming from? Am I explaining that in any kind of sensible way?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. It's like a common thing we're all going through. But there's nothing simple about it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of deep. It's kind of
totally
esoteric. I don't know, not esoteric. That's not the right word. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's for another word of the day.
I think
Jay.
I understand you. Let's see if the listeners understand.
I hope the listen. That's who I'm. I think I know Jay understands me. I hope after all these years that I've known you. But hopefully the listeners know. If you please hit me up on this email because I want to know if I'm saying sentences. I'm barely saying sentences sometimes. At least that's how I feel. So.
I feel the same way sometimes.
It's weird.
I was like, I just said a whole sentence. It's like, what did I say? Did any of that make sense? I don't know.
No, it's fun. Yeah. But yeah, so the main thing is what their album is called in 2020. I think they expanded on their sound. It's pretty good. It's kind of a little bit of bigger sound. They expanded on it. Yeah. One of the highlights is, I think it's called Paper Cup. I think it's the second track.
I got that one actually. Yeah, isn't there someone featured on that? Sylvan Esso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, have you heard of them?
No. Who are they? Is it a they or is it a person?
I think it's a they.
Okay.
I was thinking about the wrong band, which was like, I won't even say it, but they're pretty. They've come up in my circles of other people I talk to about music with. Yeah. And I've listened to them a little bit. I still have some exploring to do, some discovery to do.
They're a pop duo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even want to say too much about them because I don't know enough. But yeah, Amelia Meath does some vocals on that. Mostly kind of background and harmony vocals.
Yeah.
Kind of supporting Martin Courtney's vocals.
Okay.
Kind of just blends right in. It sounds really nice. I think works really well.
Yeah.
And it was cool that they've never done that on their album, so it's another new thing they're adding to their repertoire, to their discography, and to their musical exploration. Should
we play out on that for this episode, or do we want to say any more about real estate?
No. Yeah, no, that's basically all I got. This album's cool. There's a few more instruments on it. There's some like pizzicato violin.
Oh yeah.
I think where they're plucking.
Yeah.
Pizzicato. I don't know how to say it.
Not Picasso.
Not Picasso. Picasso, bro.
Oh my god.
But there's some folky piano in there. So some new sounds. Yeah. Again, they're expanding. It's a cool album. I'm not as familiar with it as...
Oh, this is the album that has strings in it, right? They started adding strings, I think.
Yeah, so again, it's a little bit bigger, more cinematic kind of feel.
Yeah, I like that about this album.
They didn't go too far. It's not out of whack compared to the other albums.
No, I think this track Falling Down is really good as well. As like, the strings are like... It's weird. It's like everything they do is like subdued.
Totally. It's almost muted. They keep it in a real chill level.
Like when they add keys, like it's like you can barely hear them, and now they've added strings and you can barely hear them.
Yeah.
Like even their vocals, you can barely hear them sometimes.
Totally. Yeah, especially on this album. I think they mix some of their vocals very deep in the mix, which I like a lot of the time. It doesn't need to be such a poppy, stark vocal layer far above the music. Because again, they're really good at creating this chill vibe that kind of just allows you to fall into it and kind of be in a kind of chill meditative state.
Yeah.
It's not a call to action. You know, it's not look what come musical tricks we can do.
Well, do you think though that like, because I feel like sometimes that can be emotive, you know, doing the opposite of what they're doing. You know?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're saying they're not trying to draw attention to things really and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I think it works for them. It's a decision. It's a choice.
It is very much.
It's very obvious, like on purpose choice.
Yeah,
that they're doing. Like I said, like with the strings in this album, like they could have pumped them up in the mix more. They could have like did a little bit more with that kind of thing. But they're just, but they're in there and they're just very subtle and they're like you wouldn't even know, you know, that they're there or not.
Yeah, subtle's a great way to describe kind of their whole discography.
Yeah,
they're not trying to shout off the mountaintops about who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah,
you know, they're purposefully trying to be super chill and subdued.
Yeah,
and they do it really well. You know, I think it's a good thing. And again, you can look up other reviews and be like, they won't say good things about them, but we're here to say good things about them because I know what they're about, and that's what they provided for me. That's the value that I see, and I continue to go back for them for that.
Yeah,
I think they seem like they like to make music, and they're gonna still make music in the future, and I'm gonna be following them.
Yeah, I think the only thing they said is it gets harder, like the more they do it, kind of thing. And I think that's what they said about this album as well, or maybe the album before this is, you know, sometimes they lose sight of what they're doing, kind of thing, because of the success and because of the touring and because of doing this for so many years.
Right.
You know, it can become like a job kind of thing, which is a crazy concept for me to hear. That there are bands and musicians out there that start to feel this way after a while because, you know, I guess like, you know, there's a cycle that still exists of recording an album and then touring and then recording an album and touring kind of thing.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I thought that was like an old school way of doing things. I don't think it really existed anymore because of lack of money in the music industry. But there seems to be a lot of bands that still do it that way, like them being one example, Real Estate.
Yeah, today more than ever,
yeah,
touring is where they're getting most of their money because of merchandise and ticket sales as opposed to album sales because everybody's streaming it for free.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah, like they said, like every time they go to write music, it's like, I think they just kind of need to sort of check themselves a little bit and, you know, not be on autopilot. I think they mentioned that, which is something that Warpaint mentioned as well about, you know, when they were on tour, they had like their little home studio in their bus kind of thing, in order for them to create music whilst they're on the road. Because I guess I have never been there, never done this, but when you're touring, you're playing the same songs night in, night out kind of thing. And, you know, yeah, I mean, that would be a weird thing to play the same song every night and then just like, oh, I'm not really into this anymore kind of thing. Like,
it's a weird phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because the music that you create that didn't exist before and these tours of this music that didn't exist before you did it become part of your life and become part of what you're involved with, and it permeates your brain and it changes your existence. You know, and it's a cool, powerful thing. Something you created is changing you and affecting you. How it does that, it varies between how you respond to it, you know, and what you think about it and how you want to, I already said it, how you want to respond to it. It's an interesting thing. A lot of bands don't make it past that kind of 10-year mark after you've been creating multiple albums consistently over 10 years. A lot of people get burnt out or don't know what to do or feel like they don't have anything more to say through this project. Yeah,
I feel that's happened to a lot of bands. Kings of Leon was one I think I mentioned before, where I loved them when they first came out. And I have sort of lost track of them the last few years, but like I think by their third or fourth album, I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing anymore. This is not really like, this isn't what I was into when you first started out. You just seem like a rock band that's like dialing it, phoning it in right now or something like that. Like,
I haven't been following them either. Last I heard, I mean, yeah, they were on tour. This was already like 5 years or more.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's the last time I listened to something like 5 years ago.
Because they had a good run.
They did, yeah.
And I remember music on the radio even several years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he had some issues with alcohol or something, and I think he had to cancel a tour.
Yeah, we have talked about this before, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like their first album was like 70s kind of rock thing for me, vibe kind of thing, in a really good way, really interesting way, the way they recorded the album. And then now, the last things I saw of them, they were just like, I think the lyrics was him singing about him being on tour or something like that, and the sound had changed, and they were just like,
I mean, that sounds like
shaved all their beards and their long 70s hair off. And like,
they're just playing parts, playing roles. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad because I don't know exactly what they've been doing over the past 5 years. But yes, similar kind of experience about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, play us out on that last track, one of your choice from the main thing. But I recommend Real Estate. I think they're a cool project.
Yeah.
They've been super consistent. They have a pretty solid, prolific discography.
Yeah.
There's
a lot to check out.
There's at least 3 or 4 albums that I would say are, in my lineup.
Yeah.
That I've gone back to over the years. And I can't recommend them enough. It's super chill if you're trying to paint or trying to chill.
Yeah.
Play with your kids or
Yeah. And once COVID's not a thing anymore, I think it would be nice to see them live.
Yeah, it would be a great concert.
I think they'll bring I think I saw one clip of them playing, and I was like, yeah, I think they seem like that'll be a band to see live, because it's not like you're not going to get stuck in a mosh pit, but you can still enjoy like a kind of rock show.
It's something to chill out to and just have your own thoughts and sip it on a nice IPA in the summertime, in the afternoon. And that's the vibes these guys bring to me. So
I stop talking about summer, man, because I'm missing it in this
I know.
dark, cold, dreary Seattle, and I'm from England as well. It was dark and dreary over there. I'm about ready to relocate this podcast to Miami or somewhere.
Hey, I'm coming with. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Our next broadcast might be from Miami, guys, so stay tuned.
We'll be in like flowery shirts
on the beach.
Replace our beers with margaritas and stuff like that.
Something with an umbrella in it.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I mean, hit us up. Real Estate, I recommend them. If you guys got any cool stories or you know this or you have any corrections, hit us up with that email, Jay.
Roots to Grooves at signalradio.com. That's SIGNL radio.com.
That's it. That's all we got, folks.
Yeah. Hey, also, we have a website now. It's been around for many months, but
many moons.
Rootstogrooves.com. We have that now. I registered it.
Oh, awesome. This is news to me. I just found that out. I did not know that.
Rootstogrooves.com.
Awesome.
You can find every episode of the show and the video episodes as well. If you're listening to the audio. So
that's super cool. Check that out. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Play us out, Jay.
Paper Cup featuring Sylvanessa.
You always come paper cup until we're all grown up and we have had enough. If I could just stand still, still my will, pulling me up this hill, searching for something real. If I could just stand still, and still my will, pulling me up this hill, searching for something real, something real. If I could just stand still, is it my will, pulling me up this hill, searching for something real.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signl Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.